So Imran Khan has promised to usher in Pakistan's golden era. But what do his critics make of his plans to fight corruption and improve ties with India? Well, to discuss that and more, I'm joined now from Karachi by Miftah Ismail from the opposition PMLN party. He was Pakistan's finance minister in Nawaz Sharif's administration, and before that, an IMF economist. In Islamabad, we have Chaudhry Fawad Hussain. He's Pakistan's Minister of Information and Broadcasting with Imran Khan's ruling PTI party. And also joining us from the capital is author and founder of the Center for Research and Security Studies, Imtiaz Gul. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. You heard the interview with Imran Khan. I think it would be best if we went at this in bite-sized chunks and we took it a theme at a time. So I'm going to try and corral the conversation thematically here. Let's start with the US and Afghanistan and what Imran Khan had to say about that. Imtiaz Gul, he said Pakistan won't be a hired gun anymore. Did you hear anything from what he said about Afghanistan and the relationship with the United States that surprised you?
No, I don't think it's surprising. I think Imran Khan has been very clear about this war that began in the name of war against terrorism in Afghanistan, but I think it gave birth to many other wars in the Middle East as well. So I think it is a very clear categorical statement that has come from a Pakistani leader for the first time.
And Chaudhry Fawad Hussain, when we look at how he quite heavily pushes back against the very notion that Pakistan could be supporting the Taliban in any way, shape or form in Afghanistan, what I find interesting is that on this very show, we've had Asad Durrani, former ISI, we've had two former foreign ministers, Hina Rabbani Khaur and Khawaja Asif, all admit that yes, Pakistan used to do that, but it doesn't do that anymore. For Imran Khan, he believes it never happened. Isn't that a bit of a contradiction, or is he misinformed?
Well, actually, Imran Khan is more informed on the issues of Afghanistan than any other leader in Pakistan, for a reason that Imran Khan himself is a Pakhtun. He is well known in Afghanistan. People in Afghanistan know him. He has a personal relationship in Afghanistan, and he has a very consistent stand since 9/11. He has been suggesting that Afghanistan needs a political solution and military solution won't go anywhere. And actually now it's heartening to see that the point of view of Prime Minister Imran Khan is now prevailing even in Washington, and Washington is actually now agreeing with what Imran Khan said earlier.
Miftah Ismail, even though you're on the other side of the aisle, do you agree with your Prime Minister's policy when it comes to Afghanistan?
I think Pakistan has had a very consistent policy over the years, and I think that Prime Minister was right when he said that you can't really blame Pakistan for the failure of the US to win this war militarily. Of course, the people in Afghanistan don't support the US, and so this just as in Vietnam. I mean, there is no way you can be a superpower, but you're not going to win militarily if the people are not with you. And the only solution to this, Pakistan's point of view, has been this has to be a peaceful solution, which has to be an Afghan-led, Afghan-owned process. This has been the consistent stand for Pakistan for many years. Imran Khan is taking this policy further, and I have no doubt that that is the only viable way to peace. The US cannot really win a war here, and of course it would be impossible for Taliban to defeat the US. So the best way is for them to sit together and negotiate. And Pakistan has tried always to help this, but Pakistan is not the only actor in this, foreign actor in this game. There are too many other countries. For the US to have blamed Pakistan that somehow we are controlling Taliban, I think is absolutely not true. But Pakistan has been and it's still playing the role that it can to bring these parties on the table.
Imtiaz, Trump spoke about that $33 billion that he felt was wasted over 15 years because he felt that Pakistan had fooled the United States. Now he's sort of reaching out and saying we could possibly be friends, and maybe Pakistan could be the key in those peace talks in Abu Dhabi. Is Pakistan going to miss those billions of dollars in military aid coming from the United States?
No, I don't think Pakistan will miss those billions. They were never billions if you average out the costs that Pakistan has suffered because of this war. I think the United States still owes at least $1.5 billion Miftah Ismail Saab probably would better know, to Pakistan as reimbursements for Pakistan's military operations that the Pakistan Army carried out on the request of the US Army. But I think ever since this government has come, it has been a very categorical statement of fact that we are not looking for aid, we are not looking for picking up guns for any other country, and that the focus will be more, I think, on the internal problems and fixing the problems that afflict common people's lives in Pakistan instead of serving somebody else's cause.
Right, okay, so let's look at some of those internal problems. And corruption. He's been an anti-corruption crusader, if I can use that word. Miftah, as a PMLN man, do you believe that this government has used the courts to come after your party, Nawaz Sharif? The Sharif brothers are in jail. Are they using justice instrumentally in a revenge fashion?
I was disappointed in listening to the Prime Minister's interview and how he would speak badly of Pakistan's leaders, former leaders, to an international audience. I thought that was really not something a sitting Prime Minister should do. And you know, as much as I wish not to criticize my country's Prime Minister, but I think that you know, you talked about revenge. There is no revenge because we never were aggressors in the first place. But now the people of Pakistan are seeing that this whole facade of cases against Nawaz Sharif and Shahbaz Sharif are not coming to anything. Shahbaz Sharif is in jail now for, I think, close to 80, 90 days, and there is not even a case registered against him. Nawaz Sharif was found guilty of one, and then the Islamabad High Court has given him relief. And to this day, there is no corruption case against Nawaz Sharif. It's just a trail of money that Nawaz Sharif has given and that the court is not accepting. So this, and the worst thing about it is that there is corruption in Pakistan. There are corrupt politicians in Pakistan. There are corrupt people in every walk of life in Pakistan. And because you are trying to pin innocent people as corrupt, you are actually letting go of the real corrupt people. And Khan Saab, the Prime Minister, I think, yes, I have no doubt that he's honest in his belief that there is corruption in Pakistan. But in the last 6 months, the ineptness of people, the PTI government has really pushed our economy into a recession. And you know, and all this stuff that they were talking about, corruption, that there were $200 billion lying abroad, that hasn't been brought back. That was supposed to be brought back in one day. And that every day there was a 10 billion rupee or 12 billion rupee corruption. That hasn't stopped, or if it has stopped, I don't know where that money has gone. And Khan has been very tolerant of corruption within his own party. Okay. So even though there are people in his party who, okay, sorry.
Right, well, let's get a response from Mr. Hussain, the PTI man. Imran Khan said, essentially, those guys were the mafia, and now he's dealing with the mafia. And we're hearing from Miftah Ismail that this is not quite the case. What's going on?
Well, frankly, this is not denying the fact that in Pakistan before Imran Khan and before PTI, the corruption was rampant. And primarily, the whole political movement Imran Khan raised was on anti-corruption narrative. And we are in the power because of our very staunch, very staunch stand against corruption. So the cases referred by Miftah Ismail against their leadership was not initiated by us. Actually, all those cases were initiated when PMLN and Nawaz Sharif was in power. Likewise, the cases against Mr. Zardari was even initiated by Nawaz Sharif's government and not by us. What we have done after coming to power is we have just liberated investigation agencies, and investigation agencies are now working on those cases. And primarily, everyone knew that how Nawaz Sharif and Zardari plundered Pakistan, and now they have billions and billions of dollars properties in UK. Their kids in the age of 10, in the age of 12, in the age of 14 owned billions of dollars properties. So how come that happened? So obviously there was a rampant corruption, and Nawaz Sharif and Zardari were helm of the affairs, and they were on the helm of the whole corruption story. Okay. So it's natural that when Imran Khan got the power, we had to deal with it.
Okay, so Miftah Ismail, are you buying any of that? This was a bloated, slow system, and they've liberated it so justice can be smooth and swift.
First of all, we are absolutely, the Pakistan Muslim League is not running away from accountability, and we are more than happy to face any accountability. And please, it would be, I think, unfair to keep Mr. Nawaz Sharif and Mr. Zardari paint them with the same brush. Since there is nobody from People's Party, so I'll leave Mr. Zardari out of this. And obviously, there is a different perception in Pakistan about Mr. Zardari. Nawaz Sharif is still the most popular leader in Pakistan. And in the last 6 months after PTI's misgovernance, ineptness, and negligence of the country's affairs, I think people of Pakistan have really realized that, what Nawaz Sharif could do for Pakistan. What we did in the last 5 years, built more motorways than any other leader. We built power plants. We did, we put 13,000 megawatts of power plants in the grid. We brought investments from around the world, including China. So Nawaz Sharif has been a credible leader, and there has not been a single. Mr. Fawad Chaudhry talks about billions and billions of dollars. I'd like to know where it is. And on behalf of Nawaz Sharif, I'm willing to make this deal with him that, okay, just give Nawaz Sharif 500 million and the rest of the money you can keep. I mean, seriously, this is ridiculous. This is beyond ridiculous. But the thing is that these guys, I mean, these guys come up with these numbers out of thin air, and now that they are in the government, they can't really back any of this. And I do not know of one case where there has been a serious allegation of kickback or commission against Nawaz Sharif.
Okay, I want to move on to extremism and minorities here, because that was one of the things we brought up with Imran Khan. Imtiaz Gul, let me ask you about that question. I asked him about Asia Bibi, and he stared down the TLP, Tehreek-e-insaf. He had that televised address. They were taken off the streets essentially, and some of their leadership is now in jail. And I asked him, if you remember, whether the small price to pay for that was rescinding that offer to the financial advisor or the finance ministry advisor, Atif Mia. What do you think? What did you think of his answer, Imtiaz Gul, that we've got bigger problems to deal with, so that was a small price to pay because Atif Mia was an Ahmadi and that might cause more trouble?
Well, I think common sense and wisdom advises you to move on if there are problems, so you can set it aside and move on to deal with bigger problems. I think this was a very small price, and I think the dividend for that probably would be much bigger in the months and years to come. For the first time, a radical group which had taken the entire capital hostage a year ago was dealt with within 3 days, and I think most of Pakistanis were very happy to see that the entire protest being wrapped up, and now some of the leaders being in jail. We should not be idealistic when we demand an end to the so-called socio-political support to the extremist elements or to hardline parties. These are very much part of the society, so we shall have to find smarter ways to deal with them in order to prevent further chaos and instability in this country.
So Chaudhry, Fawad, Hussain, I remember seeing a press conference where you were convinced that Atif Mia was there to stay, but then, quietly he resigned and his job offer was rescinded. Do you accept now that this is politics and, okay, the guy has to resign so you don't have more trouble on the streets? You give the extremists a little bit in order to win the big game. Is that what you guys are doing?
Well, primarily, the problem of extremism is not limited to Pakistan. It's a universal problem. Turkey itself is facing that. India has its own problem, and everywhere we see this problem of extremism, and the whole world needs to unite against that. So Pakistan has its own problem, actually. That has obviously international links also, and we are, as you can call it, we are victim of the cruelty of geography, basically, and it has a long history to it. We are trying to actually, what we have did in these 6 days, in these 6 months, no other government has actually done that. We are slowly moving towards the elimination of extremism. We are slowly moving towards bringing all the rationalism back. We had a few successes. So I would say, well, letting it go right at that time was a good strategy. But I hope and that in substantial terms, in near future, you will see more concrete steps for the elimination of extremism.
I wonder if Atif Mian is still a bit of an advisor, maybe just off the books, but that's for another discussion. I want to talk about Imran Khan's tour. One of the reasons why he was here in Turkey, one of the reasons why he was in the UAE, in Saudi Arabia, and so forth. Miftah Ismail. There are those saying that despite the fact that Khan's looking for investment from all these countries, Pakistan might still need an IMF bailout. The Sindh chief minister said he's going around the world begging for aid. Miftah, is that what he's doing?
No, I wouldn't put it that way. I mean, I want to first say that, we were talking about extremism, and during our FATF meetings, the government of Turkey under President Erdogan has really been a rock and has supported Pakistan. And I wanted to thank the people in government of Turkey, especially congratulate for the leadership and how they've really stood by Pakistan all the time in international forums, especially during, the Financial Action Task Force meetings. So I wanted to thank that, and given the great historical relations that we have with Turkey, I think it's only right that Pakistani prime ministers, whether it's Nawaz Sharif or Imran Khan or anybody, come and visit with Turkish leadership and discuss ways to enhance our economic relations. And if the Prime Minister of Pakistan goes to Abu Dhabi or to Ankara to discuss financial assistance even, or to discuss ways to improve trade relations or investment relations between the two countries, I think it's only natural. There's nothing wrong with that.
And do you believe that it's actually going to make a difference and prevent the IMF bailout? You, as a former very senior, you're still a very senior economist, but somebody who was at the table as you were making the plans for the country's economy, would it be enough to avert that IMF bailout?
You cannot really have a very large fiscal deficit, and this year the deficit is going to be even larger than last year. You cannot have a large trade deficit and then rely on either the IMF or friendly countries to continue to support you. You have to make fundamental changes. This government is actually in two minds whether to go with the IMF or not. I wish that they would once and for all decide if they wish to go to the IMF or not, and then tell us, so that there's certainty in the market, and then the markets can form opinions accordingly. At the moment, actually, the government is in two minds. So yes, they're getting money from Saudi Arabia, from UAE. Perhaps they will get some help from other countries, China. But all of that money will not particularly help them unless they know what course they're moving on. And that, unfortunately, that economic certainty, that decisiveness has not been coming forward from the Ministry of Finance.
Imtiaz Gul, what did it tell you when I asked the Prime Minister about all those billions of dollars of Chinese investment and whether he would criticize the Chinese over their human rights? What did you make of that?
Well, I think being the Prime Minister of Pakistan, a country which foreign investors were shunning and most of the Western countries never stepped in, and China has turned out as the bailout for this country. So I don't think that there is much to criticize as far as Chinese involvement here is concerned. Yes, there were, I think, some deals, some missteps when the Pakistani government was signing MOUs and contracts with the Chinese government. This is not the fault of the Chinese, but of the Pakistani leaders, those who signed these deals. And I think this is what Imran Khan was criticizing. And I think Chinese have taken note of that. And we are hoping that future ventures will be more equal-handed, more balanced, which would probably ensure a win-win situation for both countries, particularly for Pakistan, where unemployment is very high, productivity is very low. Our production capacity hasn't increased in the last 2 decades. So I think as a whole, it's more win-win for Pakistan than for China. And Pakistani leaders, most of Pakistanis, I think, are thankful to China for that.
So, Chaudhry, Fawad, Hussain, let me put it to you this way. The Prime Minister saying that Pakistan would no longer be a gun for hire for the United States, won't fight the US's wars, won't be a lackey for the United States. But if we look at the Chinese investment in the country, which is undoubtedly, according to a lot of good estimates from a lot of people more lettered than myself, is good for the country's economy, right? But if the Prime Minister cannot bring himself to say that the Chinese putting a million Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps is wrong, aren't you just trading the United States for the Chinese now?
Well, not really. And most of the propaganda against China, we reject that. We have a very close relationship with China. It's a historical relationship. Okay, we have. We know that
this is not propaganda. These are verifiable facts. The Chinese in their state media have defended what they've been doing. So it's not propaganda, it's being done.
No,
right?
frankly, the
Is
view,
there internal matter?
there are different views. There are different views, and this is something we actually know that, and we actually know that what's going on China, and there's a well orchestrated campaign that is now going on against the CPAC in China. But obviously we totally reject that. We believe this relationship of China and Pakistan is very important for our economy. Also, this is not this shouldn't be a threat to any other country. We have actually welcomed all other countries to come and invest in Pakistan. It includes USA. The Exxon is coming to Pakistan with $27 billion investment. Likewise, the Pepsi and Coke, that's American companies, and actually the Turkish Coke is leading that consortium, and they have now invested in Pakistan heavily. So the CPAC is essentially an economic agenda, and we are committed to that. And likewise, I don't think so that any other country should feel threatened about that. So I think the relationship with China is important, and we don't see any problem with that.
Miftah Ismail, is this the Prime Minister to finally make peace with India?
I think, again, I agreed with the Prime Minister said that, before the Indian elections, there will not be any, further peace talks between Pakistan and India. In India, you still get votes for talking against Pakistan, for baiting Pakistan. And in India, unfortunately, and now you get a lot of votes for being anti-Muslims. And India has about 15–16% population, which is Muslim. But the amount of the sacrifices that are being made in Kashmir by the freedom fighters there, but not just in Kashmir. I think that throughout India now, Muslims are a fair game. Every week you hear stories about Muslims being killed for eating meat, beef. So Indian society is now going a really rapid change for the worse towards right-wing nationalistic society. This is sort of what General Zia-ul-Haq did in Pakistan, and then we are still paying for all the extremist seeds that he had sowed, and we are still harvesting. The TLP is one. But India has a very large Muslim population. In Indian the dialogue in India has really changed. But in any ways, I'm hopeful for better relations between India and Pakistan. But I wouldn't really hold my breath because every time we try, something or the other comes up. But let's see what happens.
Okay, Imtiaz Gul, very finally, big picture. He has had a few months to get his feet under the desk, to go out of Banigala and actually lead the country after being in opposition for so many years. After assessing the first few months as the honeymoon period ended, after listening to the 20 minutes of chat that he had with me, is this a strong or a weak Prime Minister, Imtiaz?
Well, I think it's too premature to say whether he's weak or strong Prime Minister. Personally, he has great character. He is not tainted. He has no business holdings, no business interests. And I guess that I think this has taken a bit longer, I would say, given the mess that we have seen over the past 7 decades in Pakistan at the hands of a few handful ruling elites. It has been an alliance of ruling elites, both military and civilian, and the effect borne out by Pakistan's ranking by the Transparency International between 2001 to date, which has hovered between 130 and 138. And that basically is an illustration of the mess that the ruling elites have created in this country. And it has also thrown up a vested interest, forces of status quo, and to take on all these forces of status quo is not going to be easy. So Imran Khan shall have to really pull up his socks now and start giving the people confidence that they are about to deliver. Only then probably would he be able to brush aside the criticism that is coming from the opposition parties.
Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure talking to all of you. Imtiaz Gul, Chaudhry, Fawad, Hussain and Miftah Ismail. I thank you all for joining us here on The Newsmakers.
Welcome.